Danny Lyon's The Bikeriders is the coolest book I've ever seen. The look and the feel of it. Then you start opening it up.
We wouldn't have all these images without Danny, you know, we wouldn't have the story.
The kind of environments in which he's captured these people in, we want to be a part of it.
One of the things that took me the longest was trying to figure out how to turn a book of photographs into a narrative film. The biggest thing that I invented was the idea of this love triangle.
This is our club. We are all friends here.
On the page, Johnny was a bit of a shadow. Johnny was the character that I had to invent the most of. He was this guy that was playing the part of a biker gang leader.
The fuck you want to start a riding club for? All those clubs do is sit around talking about motorcycles. That's what we do.
In Austin's character, Benny, he sees maybe that type of person.
I can't run this club forever, you know. I'm gonna have to find somebody to take it over, you know.
He's always got one foot out of the covers, sort of lone wolf. Yet there's this part of humanity that craves togetherness. And he ends up being pulled between them. Kathy wants Benny to stop riding, and Johnny wants Benny to take over.
You can't have him. The club can't have him. He's mine.
He wants to ride a bike. He'll ride a bike.
When you pick up Danny's book and you're reading those interviews, Kathy jumps off the page.
You left me one beer out of a whole case of bottles. What saints?
She's a very exuberant woman who says exactly what she thinks, and she's an incredible storyteller. And I don't think she quite realizes how good of a storyteller she is.
She's like the backbone of the entire piece.
The contradictions that she's faced with when it comes to the gang and what they represent, and her love of Benny.
I want you to quit riding. I want you to quit the club.
Don't ask that.
You can feel it in the movie. They came in every day ready to play and to work really hard.
You never know when you meet your heroes if you're gonna get along, and Tom makes me laugh harder than almost anyone in this world.
Hey, look at this guy. You rode in all the way on that.
We didn't know what he was gonna sound like. When he first opened his mouth, it was like, we all went, what? That's so wild. There was a little Marlon Brando in there. I think there was a little Jimmy Cagney in there. It worked so well for us. We were so excited.
Austin Butler, just on sight, starts to change the way people behave. And the air changes, the temperature changes.
Everyone who meets him, I think, falls in love with him as soon as he walks in a room.
He's amazing, man. He's pretty much game for everything, and it was a lot of fun watching him.
I think there was a healthy camaraderie. When Benny comes over to talk to Kathy, Tom yells out, "Hey, Austin, just turn your chair around. Just go ahead and turn your chair around." Austin did it, and then it gave him something to prop his arms up on, and these massive biceps and triceps glistening in the light.
Well, so what are we doing here? Just shooting the breeze?
Jodie Comer, it has to be one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in my life.
She's just a badass actor.
The work that she's done on her voice in this, I was just floored by it.
All I could think about was riding a stupid motorcycle. I tell you, it'd be funny if it wasn't so tragic.
There's a tremendous amount of dialogue for Kathy, and Danny was very gracious. He just turned over all of his original audio recordings.
Kathy, remember once when you were telling me about, when you first met the guys and how you,
Well, I changed. I have.
All right, well, why don't you talk to me about that?
Well, in a year. Last year. What, from the beginning?
When I got the voice recordings, I remember going, oh my God, who's this woman? And I felt like the way to really get an essence of her was through her voice.
We're in the mid-60s, and it's mainly Midwestern Chicago that is what you'll hear.
We started working together like 2.5 months before we started.
Jeff came into my office with this big grin on his face, and he plays this recording of Kathy. And I was like, yeah, I know that recording. We've heard it a lot. And he goes, that's Jodie. And I was like, what?
Jodie had taken every single word and phonetically broken it down to memorize it in that accent.
I went there, and I never felt so out of place in all my life.
Just the layers of character that you see.
You and me, kid.
These actors, they're all stone cold actors.
I can't imagine a better cast than Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, and Jodie Comer. I can't imagine.
Is that what this club is now? When you show up, get the clothes on, the grease is getting put on your face. Those are the moments that really suspend disbelief.
I could look out and see nothing but period bikes, period costumes, and kind of get lost. Like I went back in time.
What actor doesn't want to show up and be on the back of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle in 1960s clothes?
This coat makes me feel strong. It makes me feel big and sturdy.
I feel badass in this leather jacket, you know?
The hairstyles and the nail colors, we start in the 60s and we finish in the 70s, so it was like, how can we subtly show the transition of time and age?
She starts out in the movie, she's in this when she meets Benny, and her color palette gets a little bit darker with her chain added to the bottom. This was the 1959 Scrambles. This is a vintage piece.
I don't know how Aaron Bennick pulled off any of this.
This is real that they used to do. They would take a liner of the inside of a leather jacket and they'd make a cut out of it. We had to make every single patch, then age them, then sew them on, then age it again. If you asked any of my crew, they'd probably say, "Do you want more dirt?"
All these bikes are amazing. They're original.
We've put so much time and so much energy into using period-correct motorcycles.
I personally own a lot of these motorcycles. Austin's bike is a 65 Panhead. That's Cal's bike. It's pretty much almost identical to the bike that's in the book that was Cal's. I've owned this bike since I was 19, 20 years old.
You hear about prima donnas on film sets all the time. Well, the motorcycles are prima donnas. They didn't like it when it was cold. They didn't like it when it was hot. They didn't like it when it was dry, and they didn't like it when it was wet. You have to have 15 of these motorcycles operating in unison, hitting their marks in the background and everything else.
I grew up with my dad riding motorcycles.
I've done a lot of kind of just sitting on the sitting on the back.
When I was about 16, my dad said, "You gotta learn how to ride a motorcycle," so he threw me on. I remember dropping his motorcycle many times.
There's nothing worse than when you look at a film and you're like, ah, they're not riding those motorcycles. We've worked with these actors and we've gotten them up riding these motorcycles.
As a producer, having a lot of actors riding period motorcycles was a nail-biter. One of the biggest things was the fact that they didn't wear helmets in those days.
You know, you tell them you can ride a motorcycle, but then you got to come and, you know, prove it.
I did like one of those 2-day courses to get your learners and just learned on the job.
They do like slaloms and through these cones and stuff like that.
Having us ride in formation, getting everybody comfortable on the bikes.
Now I've kind of got the bug a little bit. Even though I'm at an age where I shouldn't be scared to tell my parents that I want a motorbike, I'm a bit scared to tell my parents that maybe I want a motorbike.
I know personally from riding motorcycles that it is freedom. It's ultimate freedom.
I loved the idea that you could have something so potent and so vibrant as it's represented in these photographs that then just is gone. To me, The Bikeriders really is about those things in your younger life that were beautiful, that you might be nostalgic for, that are no longer there. But it is also kind of the culmination of everything that I've done before. And so, in a way, The Bikeriders is kind of the most pure directorial experience you'll see from me, because I could actually pull off everything that was in my head.
The main reason I wanted to be a part of this film was to work with Jeff Nichols.
He wrote it with such care and has thought about every angle.
Stand by. And here we go. Roll sound.
Yes, it needed to be loud and noisy and aggressive, but it also had to be seductive. It's really important that the audience understand why Kathy was swept up by this subculture. When Kathy is on the back of Benny's motorcycle for the first time and they're crossing this bridge, it's actually not about Kathy falling in love with Benny. It's about Kathy falling in love with motorcycles.
It's dangerous, and I think that's extremely intoxicating and something that is very easy to get swept up in.
It's something you gotta feel. It's something that you have to experience. There is this shot that's in profile, it's handheld, of her closing her eyes, and it almost looks like she's breathing in the back of Austin's jacket, but she's certainly breathing in the moment. As soon as we got that shot, I was like, success for today. If success is getting what's in your head, sometimes there's something else. There's a scene by the campfire where Johnny offers Benny the club for the first time.
I'm gonna have to find somebody to take it over, you know.
There's something about Tom, he just gets in other people's shots. He just keeps getting closer and closer.
It's refreshing to be on a set like this where each take is different and you're just finding things with everybody in the moment, you know?
It's intimate, it's dangerous. It is beyond what I wrote. It was exhilarating.
You, who all these guys here, you know, they're all trying to be. You see?
I've been such a big fan of Jeff's for a long time.
Everything's a conversation, and he always encourages that, which is so amazing.
Let's go again. Reset.
If an actor has their own process, he'll let them be. But if they need him, if they need to work through things with him, he can do it in a very thorough, very clear way.
Something he told me early on is, I've already seen the film in my mind, so we have that to fall back on. If you want to try things and experiment with things, just know we can always go back to the film that I have in my head.
We feel very lucky to be a part of this circus. Yeah, it was a gift.
The consensus amongst all the fellas here is that Jeff Nichols doesn't miss.